Hello, Serge here from the backyard driving range and had the clipboard, and we got a question here. And this one comes from Jerry Lester, and Jerry says, Don, I continue to have a problem with the FUS, that's the forward upswing, and when tied to your simplified video, it gets worse. Though I am not a beginner, question in parentheses, long-time rotational swinger, divot in front of the ball for the irons, end of parentheses, your FUS becomes a scoop help it upswing, much like what one sees in beginners. Thus I believe many former rotational swingers can't get the transition out of our minds. It just doesn't register. A few shot hits, thins are bladed, and I'm right back down and through. Okay, Jerry got an answer. Unfortunately, it wasn't signed, and but it's a pretty good answer, and I'm going to read that. If you feel like you're scooping, it says, hey Jerry, if you feel like you're scooping it, then your hands are being too active. Your divot should still be in front of the ball with the surge swing. Yeah, it should go past the ball, but it usually, in most cases, a good divot will start under about the center of the golf ball, and then actually go past a little bit, and it should be just as it's going to be said here. It's just shallower. Have you videoed your swing? You're not trying to lift the ball up, though that is a consequence. You might really want to go back and try Serge's towel drill regularly. I'm betting that there's too much hinging going on in your swing when you want a smooth pendulum motion, not a lever motion. Okay? There's some good comments there and some good thoughts. And so let's just go back and look at Jerry's issue, and the fact that I think he gives me the biggest clue as to where his problem is when he says his divots are in front of the ball because he's a long-time rotational swinger. That means that if you're rotational, the downswing always starts by taking your left knee, your left hip, and shoulders, and just turning them as fast as you can turn them. And as we know some players that their first thought is to do just what? Boom, snap that left leg straight, because they feel that the faster they can snap their left forward leg and hip, and the shoulder starts following it, the faster they rotate their body, the quicker that pulls their arms down. Well, pretty much, I think you can pretty much say that anytime you get into your backswing, especially if you've made a huge turn and you snap that fast, where are you going? Any turning to any rotation of the body, period, going left, just rotation, is going to be moving the body forward. So if the body moves forward first and it gets ahead of the ball, and now you're a little bit ahead of it, that's why the divots, to hit the ball, you might be here ahead of the ball. By the time you hit the ball and the club gets in the ground, the divot will stop past where the ball was. All right? Conversely, if you rotate it out and you're ahead, what's the only way you can hit the ball? You have to end up, if you maintain your angles and you're coming down, you're really severely coming down at a steep angle, and have very likely taking deep divots. So one of the things that's going to happen is you're going to be very susceptible to hitting the thins because you're so far by. So to not release the club, which it sounds like you're not doing, because if you did, then you'd really have chunky divots. But if you're just holding on and getting through, as I call it, lag, drag, hold, block is what you have to do to not hit the ball left. Because if you release to your body, the club will be released, your divots will be coming way inside, and you'll be starting the ball left to your target. You're just going to hit a lot of thins. So what's the answer? Eventually, the answer is exactly like what I say about if you want to hit good shots, your head must never, ever, ever, never, how many ever nevers you want to use, move forward in the swing until after impact. So we start preloaded heavy right, and we're back here at impact behind the ball. The head doesn't move forward until impact, and I've started standing up. All right, swinging up and standing up. So what has to happen if you rotated too much? In many cases, you start rotating a little bit, and then the mind senses it. So what does it do to you? It starts sending you back into somewhat of a reverse weight shift to get behind the ball. So if you turned out of the way and then you start to come back, that's when you could start. You could do anything. You could be, but the big thing would be if you're coming back and you're trying to swing up, it could get you into scooping the ball up. And so that's a correction that the brain figures out that it has to do to be able to try to have a chance of being behind the ball where your arms can straighten out. So it's a situation where the brain figures out that being ahead of the ball is not the place to be, and you have to try to stay behind the ball. So you start to go backwards into a slight reverse weight shift, and that's a whole situation of making compensatory moves. So one last thing at this it was brought up the point about the towel test. So, or towel drill. If you stand here, it's pretty, if you get ahead, there's no way. If you start getting here and you start rotating, or you start moving ahead of the ball, you can't get the towel to basically straighten out at impact, just like a golf club does, where it's approaching impact and then starts to pass the hands. All right? If you rotate too much or you get ahead, the towel's not going to go vertical down towards the ball. So it's a really great way to do it. It's also, if you're swinging too long, you'll find out that it'll start hitting you on the back. So towel drills are a pretty cool drill, pretty neat drill, and it gives you a sense of creating that timing to be behind the ball so that the arms can straighten out approaching the ball. So I think we got a timing issue here, and that you're bleeding back into rotational, or even when you try to get vertical, if you start the shoulders too soon, you're ahead of the ball and you have to come backwards to get it, and that's where the scooping's coming from, and the thin shots and everything else that happens. All right, so we're talking about tempo and timing. We're talking about starting the lower body first, so the bump, and being behind the ball at impact if you want to hit the ball solid and straight. That's the only way to do it. Well, that's it for the search for today, and I'll be talking to y'all again soon.